You're about to discover why you keep making the same financial mistakes over and over again, even though you know better. And no, it's not because you're lazy or stupid. It's because your brain is literally wired to keep you broke. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the invisible psychological trap that's been draining your bank account for years, and more importantly, how to finally escape it. Let me tell you about Sarah. She makes $70,000 a year. Pretty decent salary, right? But somehow, at the end of every month, she's checking her account balance with that familiar sinking feeling in her stomach. She's not buying designer clothes. She's not going on expensive vacations. She never seems to have any money left over. Sound familiar? Here's what's really happening. Sarah, like most of us, is caught in something psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. But before your eyes glaze over at that term, let me explain what this actually means for your wallet. Imagine you're walking on a treadmill. You're moving forward, but you're not actually getting anywhere. That's exactly what's happening with your money. You get a raise, you feel good for about 2 weeks, and then somehow your expenses magically rise to match your new income. It's like your lifestyle has an invisible elastic band attached to your paycheck, always stretching to meet it. But it goes deeper than that. Way deeper. There's a psychological phenomenon called mental accounting, and it's probably costing you thousands of dollars a year without you even realizing it. Your brain doesn't treat all money the same way. Think about it. You probably wouldn't spend $50 on a fancy dinner without thinking twice. But that $50 you got as a birthday gift? That's play money. That doesn't count the same way. Even though $50 is $50, your brain has created different mental buckets, and money in the fun bucket feels easier to spend than money in the serious bucket. This is why tax refunds disappear so quickly. You think of it as free money, as a bonus, even though it was your money all along. The government was holding it for you. But because it arrives as a lump sum that you weren't counting on in your monthly budget, your brain categorizes it differently. And money in that category? It practically burns a hole in your pocket. Now let me tell you about the comparison trap, because this one is brutal. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment, comparing your situation to everyone around you. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism that once helped us stay safe in tribes. But in the modern world, it's financial suicide. You see your colleague drive up in a new car, and suddenly your perfectly functional car feels inadequate. Your friend posts vacation photos from Bali, and your staycation feels like a failure. Your neighbor renovates their kitchen, and now yours looks dated. The problem is, you're not comparing your full financial picture to theirs. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to their highlight reel. You don't see their credit card debt. You don't see their empty retirement account. You don't see them lying awake at night, worried about money. You just see the shiny new purchase, and your brain whispers that you're falling behind. So what do? You spend money you don't have to keep up with people who are probably broke, too. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Studies show that people would rather earn $60,000 when everyone around them earns $50,000 than earn $70,000 when everyone around them earns $80,000. Read that again. We'd literally rather have less money in absolute terms if it means we have more relative to others. That's not rational. That's not logical. But that's how our brains work. And it's keeping us trapped in a cycle of spending and comparison that never ends. But wait, there's more. And this one is sneaky. It's called present bias. And it's the reason why you know you should be saving for retirement, but you buy those concert tickets instead. Your brain values immediate rewards much more highly than future rewards. When you think about buying something right now, your brain lights up with anticipation. The pleasure feels real and imminent. But when you think about your future self, who will benefit from your savings, that person feels like a stranger. That person is abstract. That person doesn't trigger the same emotional response. Researchers conducted an experiment in which they showed people age-progressed photos of themselves. Just looking at a realistic image of their older self made people more likely to save for retirement. Because suddenly the future became real. That wasn't some abstract concept called future you. That was actually you, just older. And your brain started to care more about that person's well-being. Without that visual reminder, Your future self loses out every single time to the you who wants something right now. Then there's the illusion of control. You think you're making rational money decisions, but you're not. Not really. Every spending decision you make is influenced by hundreds of tiny psychological triggers that you're not even aware of. Why do you think grocery stores put candy at the checkout? Why do you think that shirt is marked down from $100 to $60 instead of just being priced at $60? Why do you think free shipping requires a minimum purchase that's just slightly more than what you were planning to spend? These aren't accidents. These are carefully designed psychological manipulations that exploit how your brain works. And the scariest part? Even when you know about these tricks, they still work on you. I know all about anchoring bias. I know that the original price is inflated to make the sale price appear more attractive. But I still feel like I'm getting a deal. My rational brain knows the truth, but my emotional brain sees 60% off and gets excited. Let's talk about something called loss aversion. Your brain hates losing things more than it enjoys gaining things. In fact, the psychological pain of losing something is about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. This is why you'll hold on to a bad investment longer than you should, hoping it'll recover. This is why you'll keep paying for a gym membership you never use, because canceling it feels like admitting defeat. This is why you'll finish food you don't even want, because wasting it feels worse than overeating. And companies know this. Oh boy, do they know this. That's why they offer free trials that automatically convert to paid subscriptions. Because canceling feels like losing something you have, even if you never really wanted it in the first place. That's why loyalty programs work so well. You don't want to lose your points or your status, so you keep spending with the same company even when there are better deals elsewhere. You're literally spending more money to avoid the feeling of loss. Here's another trap. The planning fallacy. You consistently underestimate how much things will cost and how long they'll take. You think you'll only spend $200 on Christmas gifts, and then you spend $800. You think that home renovation will cost $5,000, but then it costs $12,000. You think you'll go to the gym 5 times a week, so that membership is totally worth it, and then you go twice a month. Your brain is optimistic to a fault, and this optimism costs you money. But why does your brain do this? Because being optimistic feels good. Planning for the worst feels bad. So your brain takes the path of least resistance and assumes everything will work out perfectly. And then reality hits, and you're scrambling to cover costs you never planned for. And here's the kicker. You do this over and over again. You never learn. Because the next time you make a plan, your brain is optimistic again, certain that this time will be different. Now I need to tell you about decision fatigue, because this is huge. Your brain can only make so many good decisions in a day before it gets tired. And when your brain is tired, it takes shortcuts. It makes impulsive decisions. It goes for immediate gratification. This is why you make your worst financial decisions late at night. This is why you impulse buy after a long day at work. This is why grocery shopping when you're hungry and tired results in a cart full of junk food you didn't plan to buy. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day. Barack Obama reduced his wardrobe to only blue or gray suits. They weren't trying to make a fashion statement. They were preserving mental energy for more important decisions. Every decision you make, even tiny ones like what to wear or what to have for breakfast, depletes your mental resources. And when those resources are depleted, your financial discipline goes out the window. Let's talk about social proof, because this one is everywhere. Your brain looks at what other people are doing to determine what you should do. If everyone else is buying something, your brain assumes it must be good. If everyone else is investing in cryptocurrency or real estate or whatever the hot trend is, you feel like you're missing out if you don't jump into. This is why bubbles form. This is why fads happen. This is why you buy things because they're popular, even if you don't really need them or even want them. The marketing industry has weaponized this. Bestseller lists, customer reviews, social media influencers showing off products, number of people who bought this item. All of these are designed to trigger your social proof instinct. And it works. You're more likely to buy something if you think other people are buying it too, even if those other people are strangers, even if you know nothing about their situation or their needs. Your brain sees the crowd and wants to follow. Here's something that might make you uncomfortable. The sunk cost fallacy. You've already spent money on something, so you keep spending more money on it, even when it doesn't make sense anymore. That car that keeps breaking down. You've already put $3,000 into repairs, so you put in another $1,000, even though you should probably get a different car. That business idea that's not working? You've already invested so much time and money that you can't quit now, even though quitting is the rational choice. That expensive course you bought but don't enjoy? You force yourself to finish it because you paid for it, even though your time could be better spent elsewhere. The money you already spent is gone. It's a sunk cost. It should not factor into your future decisions. But your brain can't let it go. Your brain sees walking away as waste, as failure, as loss. So you throw good money after bad, trying to justify the initial investment. And you keep losing. But it feels less painful than admitting you made a mistake. Now let me introduce you to lifestyle inflation. This is the big one. This is the trap that keeps high earners just as broke as low earners. You get a promotion and a raise. You're making more money than ever before. Finally, you think you'll be able to save. Finally, you'll get ahead. But then something subtle happens. You upgrade your apartment because you can afford it now. You buy a nicer car because your old one feels beneath your new status. You start eating out at better restaurants. You subscribe to more services. You buy better clothes. Each upgrade feels reasonable. You're making more money. After all, you've earned it. You deserve it. But at the end of the month, you're still broke. Because your expenses rose just as fast as your income. You're not actually better off. You're just spending more money to maintain a lifestyle that feels normal to you now. And here's the psychological trap. Each upgrade, each improvement to your lifestyle quickly becomes your new baseline. The fancy coffee that felt like a treat becomes a daily necessity. The streaming services you added becomes something you can't imagine living without. Your brain adapts incredibly quickly to new levels of comfort and consumption. This is the hedonic treadmill I mentioned earlier, and it's absolutely vicious. You think the next raise will finally be enough. You think the next level of income will finally make you feel secure. But it won't, because you'll adapt to that too. People making $500,000 a year feel just as financially stressed as people making $50,000. The numbers are different, but the psychology is the same. They've inflated their lifestyle to match their income, and now they're trapped maintaining it. Let me tell you what's really messed up about this. Your brain doesn't just adapt to good things. It adapts to everything. If you downgraded your lifestyle, if you cut expenses and lived more simply, you'd be miserable for maybe a month, maybe two. But then you'd adapt to that too. It would become your new normal. And you'd probably be just as happy, maybe even happier, because you'd have less financial stress. But your brain doesn't want you to believe that. Your brain tells you that giving up your current lifestyle would be unbearable. It's lying to you. Here's another psychological mechanism that's draining your bank account. Temporal discounting. Your brain discounts the value of future rewards based on how far away they are. $100 today feels more valuable than $120 in a year, even though rationally, you should prefer the larger amount. This is why credit cards are so dangerous. The pleasure of buying something today feels immediate and real. The pain of paying for it is delayed and abstract. Your brain makes a trade where you get immediate pleasure for future pain, and it feels like a good deal in the moment. But here's what happens. When the future arrives and the bill comes due, it's not the future anymore. It's now, and the pain is real, and you regret the decision your past self made. But will you learn from this? Will you make better decisions next time? Probably not. Because when the next opportunity for immediate gratification comes along, your brain will run the same calculation and make the same trade. Future you will suffer, but presently you feel good. And present to you is the one making the decisions. Let's talk about emotional spending. You had a bad day. You feel stressed or sad or anxious or bored. And what do? You buy something. It's called retail therapy, and it's not really therapy at all. It's a temporary emotional band-aid that costs money and solves nothing. But your brain learns that spending money provides a little hit of dopamine, a little boost of mood. So it starts to associate spending with feeling better. And before you know it, Shopping becomes your go-to coping mechanism for negative emotions. The problem is, it doesn't actually work. Studies show that the mood boost from buying something lasts on average about 90 minutes. That's it. 90 minutes of slightly elevated mood in exchange for money you might not have and stuff you might not need. And often, the temporary high is followed by guilt and regret, which makes you feel worse than before. But your brain doesn't learn from this. Because the next time you feel bad, it remembers the temporary relief, not the regret that followed. So you do it again. Now, here's where it gets really insidious. The scarcity mindset. If you grew up with financial insecurity, if you experienced poverty or watched your parents stress about money, your brain developed neural pathways around scarcity. And those pathways don't disappear just because you have more money now. Your brain is still operating from a place of scarcity, even when you're objectively secure. This manifests in weird ways. You might hoard things because your brain is afraid you won't be able to get them later. You might overspend on your kids because you remember feeling deprived. You might make impulsive purchases when you have money because your brain is screaming that you better get it now before it's gone. Or it goes the opposite direction. You might be so afraid of losing money that you can't enjoy any of it. You might deprive yourself unnecessarily. You might make your life smaller than it needs to be. You might pass up opportunities because the risk feels too scary. Either way, a scarcity mindset is running your financial life, and it's not based on your current reality. It's based on your past experiences and the stories your brain formed about money when you were young and powerless. Here's something most people don't realize. Your self-identity is wrapped up in your financial behavior. You tell yourself stories about who you are. I'm not good with money. I'm a spender, not a saver. I deserve nice things because I work hard. I can't afford that. These aren't objective facts. These are stories, and stories can be changed. But most people never question these narratives. They live them out, over and over, proving themselves right. If you believe you're bad with money, you'll make decisions that confirm that belief. If you believe you're the kind of person who deserves luxury, you'll spend accordingly. If you believe you can't afford to save, you won't. Your behavior follows your identity, and your brain is very invested in maintaining a consistent self-image. So even when you try to change your behavior, your brain pulls you back toward your established identity. This is why most people can't maintain financial changes. They're fighting their own sense of self. Let me tell you about something called the ostrich effect. When things are going badly financially, your brain's response is often to avoid looking at it. You stop checking your bank account. You don't open bills. You avoid thinking about your debt. It's like an ostrich sticking its head in the sand. And you know what? It feels better in the short term. Ignorance is bliss. Not knowing means you don't have to feel the anxiety and shame and fear that come with confronting your financial reality. But obviously, avoiding the problem doesn't make it go away. It makes it worse. Interest accumulates. Fees pile up. Opportunities to fix things pass by. But your brain doesn't care about future consequences when it's trying to avoid present pain. So you keep your head in the sand, and the hole gets deeper. And the longer you avoid looking, the scarier it becomes to finally face it. So you avoid it even longer. It's a vicious cycle that can trap you for years. Now, we need to talk about the paradox of choice. You'd think having more options would make you better off. But it doesn't. When you have too many options, your brain gets overwhelmed. Decision fatigue sets in. You become paralyzed and make no decision at all, or you make a worse decision than if you'd had fewer options. This is why you might have 17 different investment options in your retirement account and never actually choose any of them. This is why you might research the best savings account for hours and then give up and do nothing. The financial industry has weaponized this, too. They give you so many product options, so many fee structures, so many terms and conditions that your brain can't process it all. So you either give up trying to understand it, or you make a snap decision based on incomplete information. Either way, they win, and you lose. Your brain wants simple choices. A or B, yes or no. But modern financial life gives you options A through Z, each with 17 variations, and expects you to make an informed choice. Here's another trap: the winner's curse. You finally get a good deal on something, And you're so excited about winning, about beating the system, about getting a bargain, that you end up buying something you didn't really need in the first place. You weren't planning to buy a new TV, but this deal is too good to pass up. You weren't looking for a new coat, but it's 70% off. The psychological pleasure of getting a deal overrides the rational question of whether you actually need the thing. Retailers know this. That's why sales are so effective. That's why limited time offers work. That's why they show you the original price crossed out next to the sale price. They're not just selling you the product. They're selling you the feeling of being a smart shopper who got a deal. And your brain values that feeling so much that you'll spend money you weren't planning to spend just to experience it. Let me tell you about something called the focusing illusion. Whatever you're focused on in the moment seems more important than it actually is. You see an ad for a vacation, and suddenly, a vacation feels essential to your happiness. You see someone with the latest phone, and suddenly, your phone feels inadequate. Your friend tells you about their investment gains, and suddenly you feel like you're missing out. Whatever you're paying attention to gets magnified in importance. This is why advertising works. This is why social media is so dangerous for your finances. It constantly exposes you to images of things other people have, experiences other people are having, lives other people are living. And each exposure makes you feel like you're lacking something. Your brain starts to believe that you need these things to be happy, even though 5 minutes ago you were perfectly content without them. The focusing illusion creates false needs and artificial urgency, and it costs you money. Now, here's a really important one. The illusion of money. This sounds weird, but hear me out. Money isn't real. Not in the way your brain thinks it is. It's an abstraction, a symbol, a social agreement. But your brain treats it like it's a concrete thing. And different forms of money feel different to your brain, even though they're functionally identical. Cash feels more real than a debit card. A debit card feels more real than a credit card. A credit card feels more real than a digital payment app. The more abstract the form of payment, the easier it is to spend. This is why studies show people spend more when they use credit cards instead of cash. The pain of paying is reduced when you don't see physical money leaving your hand. You're not actually richer or poorer based on your payment method, but your brain's emotional response is different. And that emotional response drives your spending behavior. Companies know this. That's why they make payment as frictionless as possible. One-click checkout, saved payment information, automatic billing. The less you have to think about the fact that you're spending money, the more money you'll spend. All right, let's talk about what you can do about all this. Because understanding the traps is only useful if you can escape them. First, you need to accept something uncomfortable. You cannot rely on willpower and good intentions. Your brain is more powerful than your conscious willpower. The psychological forces I've been describing are not things you can just decide to overcome. You need to change your environment and your systems to work with your brain instead of fighting against it. Start with automation. The most powerful thing you can do is make good financial decisions automatic, so your conscious brain doesn't get involved. Automatic transfers to savings on payday. Automatic investments. Automatic bill payments. When the decision is automatic, your brain's psychological tricks can't interfere. You're not choosing to save every month. It just happens. Your present bias can't stop it. Your emotional spending can't be redirected. It's already gone before your brain even knows the money existed. Make spending harder. This sounds simple, but it works. Delete saved payment information from websites. Unsubscribe from marketing emails. Unfollow accounts that make you want to buy things. Put waiting periods on purchases. If you want something, write it down and wait 48 hours. Most of the time, the desire will pass. Your brain's impulse will fade, and you'll realize you didn't actually need it. You just wanted the dopamine hit of buying something new. Change your social comparisons. This is hard, but it's crucial. Stop following people whose lifestyles make you feel inadequate. Stop exposing yourself to images of luxury and excess. Start spending time with people who share your financial values, who aren't caught in the spending trap. Your reference group determines what feels normal to you. If everyone around you is saving and investing and living below their means, that becomes your normal. If everyone around you is spending and showing off and going into debt, that becomes your normal. Choose your influences carefully. Track everything. The ostrich effect only works when you're not looking. Force yourself to look. Check your accounts daily. Track every purchase. Review your spending weekly. When you can't avoid confronting your financial reality, your brain can't play its avoidance games. And here's what happens. The simple act of paying attention changes your behavior. When you know you'll have to record a purchase, you're less likely to make it impulsively. When you see your spending patterns in black and white, the psychological tricks become visible. And once they're visible, they lose some of their power. Reframe your relationship with future you. Remember, present bias makes the future you feel like a stranger. So you need to make the future you real. Look at the age progression photos of yourself. Write letters to your future self. Set specific goals with real emotional weight. Don't save for retirement. That's too abstract. Save so that 70-year-old you can travel without stress. Save so future you doesn't have to work until you're 80. Save so you can help your kids or your grandkids. Make it personal. Make it emotional. Make it real. Here's a big one. Question your identity stories. Those narratives about who you are with money. Challenge them. You're not bad with money. You've just never learned the skills. You're not destined to be broke. You've just been caught in psychological traps. You're not the kind of person who can't save. You're the kind of person who's going to learn how. Your identity is not fixed. It's a story you tell yourself. And you can write a new story starting right now. Simplify your choices. Remember, too many options lead to paralysis. So reduce your options. Pick one savings account and use it. Pick one investment strategy and stick with it. Create simple rules for yourself. I save 20% of every paycheck. I don't buy clothes unless something is worn out. I wait 30 days before any purchase over $100. Simple rules eliminate the need for constant decision-making. They eliminate the opportunity for your brain to talk you into bad choices. Build in friction for bad habits and remove friction for good habits. Want to stop emotional spending? Remove your credit cards from your phone. Put them in a drawer at home. Make it physically difficult to buy things impulsively. Want to save more? Make it automatic and invisible. Want to invest? Set it up once and then forget about it. Your brain follows the path of least resistance. So make good behavior the easy path and bad behavior the hard path. Practice gratitude and contentment. This sounds soft, but it's powerful. Your brain's comparison trap and focusing illusion only work when you're constantly looking at what you don't have. Actively practice noticing and appreciating what you do have. This isn't just feel-good nonsense. Studies show that people who practice gratitude spend less money. They feel less need to buy things. They're more satisfied with what they have. They're more resistant to advertising and social pressure. Understand your emotional triggers. When do you spend emotionally? After a bad day at work? When you're bored? When you're stressed? Pay attention to the patterns. And then create alternative coping mechanisms. Bad day at work? Go for a walk instead of shopping. Bored? Call a friend. Stressed? Exercise. Your brain just wants a dopamine hit. It doesn't actually care if that comes from spending money. Give it alternative sources of reward. Set goals that matter more than spending. This is important. You won't successfully resist spending if all you're doing is denying yourself. You need something that you want more than the temporary pleasure of buying stuff. Financial independence, so you can quit your job. Security, so you never have to stress about money. Freedom to take risks and try new things. Help for people you care about. A legacy for your kids. Find what matters to you more than a new phone or a fancy dinner. And then remind yourself of that goal every time you're tempted to spend. So here's my question for you. What psychological trap have you noticed yourself falling into? Which one of these resonated most with your own experience? Drop a comment and let me know, because chances are other people are struggling with the same thing and your insights could help them. Look, here's the truth. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. You're not destined to be broke forever. You're just a human being with a human brain, and that brain is running ancient software that wasn't designed for modern consumer capitalism. Every single trap I've described today is normal. Every single one affects almost everyone. The only difference between people who build wealth and people who stay broke is that the wealthy people have learned to recognize these traps and build systems that protect them from their own psychology. You can do this. You can escape these traps. You can build a better financial future. But it starts with understanding that this isn't just about money. It's about psychology. It's about how your brain works. And now you know. Now you can see the invisible forces that have been controlling your financial decisions. And once you see them, you can start to break free. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't see before, hit that like button. And if you want more content about the psychology behind your behavior and how to actually change it, subscribe to this channel. You've taken the first step by watching this video. Now take the next one. Your future self will thank you.